Hello and welcome back to Jenna Gets Creative. Today we are reviewing the 12 brush marker skin tone set from Art & Fly. I have been so curious about this brand for so long. Recently, Lindsay over the Frugal Crafter reviewed a new set that was sent to her. She's on the PR list for this company, I guess. They've kind of restructured, changed things around, and I discovered through that video that they ship directly from their website internationally, anywhere, and they sell ink refills for every marker, so this could actually be a better deal than Ohuhu. Let's get into it. The plan for this video, I'm going to swatch them all out. I'm going to test them out, get a feel for the nibs. I'm going to compare them to similar colors in the rest of my collection with other brands, try to find some duplicates. And then I will be doing a full piece so that I can give a more well-rounded opinion on this product. I will summarize at the very end. In this set, you get a lovely, very sturdy cardboard box. It seems to be double layered. It almost looks like there could be a little plastic grid at the bottom to support all the markers, but there isn't. They just all fit perfectly. It does come with a pre-printed swatching card, which is nice. The paper seems like it's probably their mixed media paper. I just think this is going to be a little too toothy and thin for alcohol ink, so I will be swatching on cardstock, which is my go-to cheap alternative marker paper. I will comment at this point before Jenna of the past has actually swatched these markers. Already I am seeing a couple of possible cons. The first con is that there are no color names. You only get a code, 2 letters and 2 to 3 numbers. So the first one I have pulled out is YR132. What does that mean? I don't know. To go along with that, on the barrel itself, we have the Art & Fly logo in the center, we have a little icon and the word chisel on one end, we have a little icon and the word brush on the other end, and that is it for the barrel of the marker. So if you were to take both caps off, you would have no idea which cap that goes back on. I don't know offhand if these use the same color system as any other brand. I could go back and watch Lindsay's video because she probably commented if she knows. She has so many brands, she would have something to compare to. As I may have said, I've been very curious about this brand for a very long time. I believe I first saw it on Bailey J's channel before I was even making art videos, and I've always been curious about it, but it's never been widely available on Canadian Amazon, and I think they seem to be fixing that because there's so much more available on Canadian Amazon in the last 2 years. This 12 set does have 12 colors. There's no black, there's no blender, it is 12 colors. So if this is the only alcohol markers you're getting, you are not going to have everything you need. But if you are supplementing, you do a lot of people, you do a lot of portraits, this is ideal. You are actually in a pack of 12 markers getting 12 useful colors. I will comment in a minute after I've actually done this swatching that you're watching whether or not they're actually properly skin colors though. Here are those markers now that I have swatched them. As you can see, there are the markings on the barrel. There is our brush nib, pretty standard, and there is our chisel, also pretty standard. I have been noticing that not all of the chisels are perfectly aligned when you're holding it this way. The barrel is a hexagonal shape, but it's squashed, so it is wider on 2 sides. It does lay flat, you can balance it on any surface, but it does tend to go to one of the 2 wider surfaces. And if you are holding it with the wider surfaces alongside you like you would with, say, a Copic marker, not all of those chisel nibs are perfectly aligned. Most of them are. No, I think I found 2 in this set of 12 that aren't. You could turn them around and twist them yourself. I don't know. That might annoy somebody. Everybody always asks, can you put the caps on the other end? You could. You can squish them on. There's nothing that's going to keep them there. They definitely weren't designed with that in mind. I have finished swatching. I have swatched compared to all of the markers I own. Obviously, this is not an exhaustive list. This is only the markers I own. I was able to find that YR132 is very similar to Ohuhu's Y120 Buttercup Yellow. I did not find a match for BR134. YR142 is very similar to Spectrum Noir's TN1 Pale Tan. YR141 is very similar to Winsor Newton's Blush, which is 0729. YR26 is very similar to Copic's E11 Barley Beige. YR29 is very similar to Spectra AD Soft Coral. YR27 is very similar to the Sketchbox Signature Brush R2 Blush. R131 is very similar to Ohuhu RV260 Pink. YR31 is most similar to Parku Y416 Marigold. BR101 is very similar to Ohuhu YR1 Dark Yellow. BR236 is very similar to two different Winsor Newton colors, 0345 Saddle Brown and 0346 Spice. It's kind of in between the two. And finally, BR96, not an exact match, but I would call it closest to Ohuhu BR1 Raw Umber. It's like half a tone lighter and slightly warmer. As we transition into a time lapse of the demonstration piece, this is past Jenna still talking to you. I, the person recording, have not done this piece yet. These are my comments after the swatching and comparison part. I will let you know when this has switched to future Jenna with the final comments. At the moment, Art & Fly does sell refill inks for their range. I'm not entirely sure how many colors they have. The largest pack you can buy is 48 colors, and they do have 2 packs of 48 colors that do not duplicate from each other, so that implies that there are at least 96. If you look at the 2 different refill listings that they have on their website, the combined total of colors you can order for refills is 103, including the colorless blender. It would be nice if they would just sell a master collection. At the moment, you cannot buy these open stock, but you can buy several different sizes of sets. You can buy a 3-pack of just blenders if you wish. You can refill all of the inks. They do say that the nibs are replaceable, but they do not currently have replacement nibs listed on their website. The regular list price for the 48 set has the markers coming in at $2.08 US each. They are on sale right now on their website for $79.97, and that comes in well under $2 per marker. These definitely compete with brands like Ohuhu in terms of affordability. And unlike Ohuhu, they actually ship internationally directly from their website. So me, I'm Canadian. I am free to buy Ohuhu products that are sent to Canadian Amazon warehouses. This means I can get all of the sets, but that's about it. I can't get any of their nib refills, I cannot get any of their open stock colors, and I imagine if they finally do open up more open stock color options, or if they finally do sell ink refills, I am probably not going to be able to make use of that. So when we get to a point in the future where my Ohuhus are running out, but I haven't had enough of a single set wear out, I'm going to be in trouble. I'm going to be looking for interesting ways to replace that collection. Art & Fly, I can order the individual ink refills directly from their website if I want to, so it is entirely possible that a couple of years in the future, something like Art & Fly would replace Ohuhu for me. And Art & Fly, if you're listening, I would love to be a product ambassador for you. In the past, when I have ordered skin tone sets of this size from other brands, you tend to lose 2 slots in the skin tone set because they tend to give you the black and the blender. This one didn't. As I already mentioned, it does give 12 colors. Colors, which is both good and bad depending on how many other markers you have, what kind of other markers you have. You may actually need that black and blender, and you cannot buy the black individually. You can buy a 3-pack of the blenders, you cannot buy an individual black. You would have to get one of the larger sets or the gray sets. And that's not necessarily a bad thing either. I do recommend having a good set of grays if you're not going to have a bunch of colors, because you can blend with grays to get a lot of different color variation. My first impression just from doing the swatches is that these feel very similar to something like Ohuhu or Spectra AD going down. The brush nib quality feels a little bit cheaper than a Copic, but I do think it's going to fare very well. I don't think that these are going to just destroy themselves after a couple of uses. I will probably come back around to these markers in half a year from now, and do one of my overdue review revisit reviews on them, so I will update you then. I don't think they will, and the other channels that I've seen that use this brand, they don't have any complaints about the longevity of the nibs. These nibs are firmer than something like Spectrum Noir or Winsor Newton, which are the softest brush nibs I've tried. The ink definitely flows very freely, very comparable to something like an Ohuhu or a Spectra AD. They don't end up feeling as dry because they're slow flowing like a Spectrum Noir. are. Again, first impression, I do think these could be a good budget-friendly Copic alternative or Copic supplement, just like Ohuhu and Spectra AD. And just in case I haven't mentioned it yet, this is not sponsored. I bought these on my own with my own money, completely unprompted. I've just been curious about this brand for a long time. I think it's interesting that there are actually some colors in this set that were hard for me to match, despite the fact that I've got about 300 different markers above my desk right now. The set has a lot of colors that are very pale on the yellower end of a skin tone. They have a few colors that are very, very pink, very saturated, and then they have 4 that I would call a brown. Within the brown category, that's YR31 and the BRs 236, 101, and 96. YR31, that's very, very brassy orange. B236, that's a really good, I would call it a really good brunette hair tone, kind of on the auburn end, almost red. BR101, that's a very, very yellow brown, almost leaning into being more of a green tone. I can see that being useful for shading certain skin tones, but really I think that's going to end up being a hair color. The only color you have that I can see using as a skin tone for somebody who has significantly more melanin is that darkest brown, the BR96, and honestly, it's not that dark. I compared it to Ohuhu's Raw Umber. There are much darker browns in other collections. This reminds me of the skin tones that you would order from the Asian market sites like Wish or AliExpress or those kind of, or Banggood. I think that's very reflective of the demographic in the countries that are producing these markers. So you have the very pale colors that are on the yellow end. You have pinks for the blushy spots. And then you have just a smattering of browns just to say that there are different shades in it. I think you're going to be able to draw Caucasian skin well. I think you're going to be able to draw Northeastern Asian very well. I don't think you're going to be able to do the skin tones that you would expect to find in more Central Southern Asia, more into the Middle East, more into Africa. I don't think you're going to be able to do those skin tones well with this set. It would be nice to see a larger skin tone set or a skin tone set B that has a lot of darker, richer, warmer tones so that we could get, you know, the full spectrum of humanity in here. As a starter set though, it is decent. There are a lot of steps on tonal scales for the types of colors that we do have. If you are an anime artist, this is absolutely going to serve you well. And for the price, for the fact that you can refill them, for the fact that you can order directly from the company anywhere in the world, it could be worth it. Future Jenna at you with the final thoughts in 3, 2, 1. So now that I've done a full piece with them, I do like these markers. I do think they are perfectly comparable to other budget brush markers like Ohuhu and Spectra AD. I keep saying those two because they are otherwise my favorite budget markers. I can definitely see myself reaching for these equally. I do like them. I would definitely consider getting more, especially since, as I've already mentioned, you can get refill inks for these directly from Art & Fly from anywhere in the world. And that's currently better than Ohuhu can boast. And sadly, especially since I just did a review on the Spectra AD markers a couple of weeks ago, I suspect that those ones are being discontinued. They are the same as Blick Studio though, by the way. But this is not a review on those. This is a review on Art & Fly. My reference photo that I chose is a ballet dancer. She's seated presumably on the floor, and she is doing up the ribbons on one of her point shoes. I chose this piece because I figured it would make great use of most of the markers. I didn't get the darkest browns in because I chose a Caucasian person. As I already mentioned, I do think that this set is more geared towards lighter skin tones. I probably could have just used the darkest brown to fill in a background, but I didn't want to risk colors bleeding together at edges and muddling this. I wanted to really show off the piece that I did do. So I've used about 3/4 of the set, and I think it went well. Obviously, I don't know beforehand here, before I've actually done the final video edit, what point you are watching in the demonstration piece, but I chose to do darker colors on the hands because the dancer is wearing tights on her legs. In the actual photo, they are the very typical almost white pink ballet tights. I went a little closer to a flesh tone in this case, closer to the shoes, closer to the ribbons, but still not the same as her arms because she's wearing tights, because I wanted it to blend in more, and because I wanted to demonstrate that you can do a different tone with the hands. I do think I was successful in making the hands a different color. I do think I was successful in making the ribbons a different color. The shoes ended up being a little more similar to the legs wearing tights than I intended, but I also think that they turned out well as well. By the way, I don't think I mentioned it, but the sketch is done using a Prismacolor Kohl Erase pencil. I used the shade purple, basic purple. I really like using the Kohl Erase pencils with alcohol markers because they do blend out just a little bit, and what's left actually looks really pretty. So I do find that these markers blend beautifully. I do find that they stay put. In today's video, I did all of my swatching and testing on just basic cardstock, just scrapbooking cardstock, and I did the final piece on Strathmore marker paper, which is essentially cardstock but coated on one side so that it's less likely to bleed through. And these colors do stay exactly where you put them. There's no feathering. I just once again wish that there was a bigger range in shades. Hard to do in a 12 pack, might not have had as many intermediate tones that made this so easy, but this is really not going to do it for darker skin tones. I wanted to comment, not quite as important, packaging can change, but the box that this came in shows 3 women. The lady in the center could be white, but the skin tone I'm thinking she's meant to be more of Asian influence. The lady on the left, possibly Southern Europe white, quite possibly Northern Africa, Middle East. The lady on the left is very definitely a black woman. You can't do one of the 3 ladies on this box with these markers. The coloring techniques also look a whole lot like watercolor, so either the painting on the box was not done with the products in the box, or this was done very large to be able to get that watercolor type look when you scale it down, and they also used other markers from a different color set. I'm not saying you can't achieve the look on the box with art and fly markers. I'm sure you can. I'm sure I could, but you can't do it with just the 12 in this box. It's a little bit deceptive. So I guess that is my final thoughts. Excellent budget-friendly brush marker. Probably a better bang for your buck at this point than Ohuhu because you can get the refill inks. The colors that they did provide are very nice. It almost looks like they provided trios of colors that would blend nicely together, and I appreciate that for sure. But again, you're not going to do really dark skin tones with this pack. You are going to need additional colors. Do I recommend the Art and Fly brand markers? Absolutely. They're a solid marker from what I can tell from this first piece. They're very affordable, they're very widely available, and yeah, they look nice too, if that's worth anything. Do I recommend the skin tone set? Not on its own. I think you need additional colors, but I do think this would be a nice addition to your marker collection, regardless of whether or not your other markers are the same brand or something else. If you've tried Art and Fly, in the comments down below, tell me what you think of them, and if you haven't before, would you be interested in trying them? Again, not sponsored. I've just been very curious about this brand for a long time, and I decided to go for it with one of their smaller packs. Will I get more Art and Fly in the future? Yeah, probably. Do I think they're the be-all end-all of markers? Probably not. I think at this point, budget-friendly brush markers are really taking off, and there are a lot of options out there. This is just one great option. Anyway, March Fandom Mayhem Season 3 Episode 2 out on Wednesday. Participate with us if you want to on Instagram and Twitter, and I will see you then. If you're looking for more to watch, I've got some suggestions up on the left side of the screen now. Don't forget to like, comment, maybe even subscribe, and if you like living life creatively, whatever that means to you, I'd love to have you along for the ride. Bye guys!